Well, good morning again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt. And I made the statement that with this system that we have now of straight Ys, just a smarter way of doing orthodontics, that we can move teeth in any direction, however much you need to, as long as people are living. And now I have a young man here who, on one side of the mouth, it seemed like it was a left side, teeth were fitting, maybe it was the right side, they were fitting together correctly. On the other side of the mouth, the upper teeth came down beside the lower teeth. The lower tooth would be here, and the upper would be coming on this side of it. So we had to open it, and then we had to move the upper teeth out some anyway, and move the lower jaw almost a ½ inch. Now, and we kept the bone structure around the tooth as we moved it out in that direction. Of course, that's where you have to put the torque and the root torque in there as you bring the tooth out. But these teeth were leaning in, and so we brought them out like that. Now let's get started on this case. It is a very interesting case. I have a good friend in Florida who was telling me he had some young person that was in one of these scissor bites, and he wanted to know how to move one side of the lower jaw out and keep the other side like it was or is. And then, but I'll have to show you who pays for it here. Let's get going now. This is a nice young man, and you look at him and you can't tell this is going on in his mouth. But when you look at the teeth, you can tell. Now you've got to expand the upper teeth in here to make room for the cuspid to come in, and we did that. We expanded these teeth up here, the whole upper arch, and this side over here met pretty good, but back in here, I'll show you later, the molars from this side were coming up on the inside. And so you have to kind of think about how can we move this side out that far and not move these. Actually, these do move, and I'll show you how it works out here. And this was 1989, I think, January, March of '89. He came in. Now these teeth over here fit in a class 1 relation. You can see how the molar teeth and everything coming down in the groove, cuspid here. But I've got to expand it a little bit to get the cuspids into place. Right here. Now, what we did, we brought these teeth forward some, brought these teeth out, and brought these teeth out on the upper. On the lower, we brought one side out only. On the lower now, we left these pretty much where they were, and we moved these teeth out. These teeth, the upper teeth were coming down something like that on the outside here. And we had to widen the upper, and then we moved these teeth out to fit in position underneath them. Now you can watch that go on. Now here is the case started in 4 of '89, right there, and the lower teeth fit up in the upper part of the mouth, drop down in this area right here. These teeth were meeting correctly. You see the upper teeth are out over the lower teeth. over here you can't see it good, but the lower teeth are in here and the upper teeth are sliding down the side of the lower teeth. That's good. Okay, here you can see it. Now, to get this tooth in place, I had to move these upper teeth out, you see. And these teeth were fitting over this, and he could have slid down in this area. And we call it a kind of a scissor bite. That's what kind of a name for it, like that. Now, when I was showing this case, I was in Colorado, I think, and a friend of one of the people that was in our class, who was a periodontist, came by, and I showed him what we were doing. And he said, well, you've just moved these teeth out of the bone. And I said, no, I haven't. And he swore down you couldn't move those teeth without moving them out of the bone. But you can do it. And I wanted to show that. And what we do, that I'll show you how we move the teeth out like that. So we put a large arch wire, we call it Big Daddy wire, and you make it fit over the teeth. And then you come out and you expand that wire a certain amount of room, figuring out how far you got to go with them. And the teeth would pick them up this way. Then we would have to use some root torque to move them out further. So here we have expanded the upper, you got the cuspids in, we expanded this some to bring it along with that. We kept this side pretty much the same, and then we bring this side over here is going to go out. And what it is, I'll have to draw it on the white sheet that we get over here, and I'll show you how it works. All right, we put pressure on these teeth to go out, and of course you got, if you push it out here with a certain amount, it'll be exactly the same amount over on this side. But I didn't want to push these past these over here. So the way we did this, we hooked elastic in here and came up and hooked it here. You also hook elastic on the lingual of this side, come across and bring it up here. So actually we're moving, if you kind of think of it, 4 quadrants of this mouth right here. We're moving these teeth over very slightly. These are going slightly out, and this is moving in a lot. And this brings these teeth, in other words, we're widening one side of the arch. This large wire right here, you make it fit, and then you expand it, and you bring it back in. I don't think you spread one side and not the other. Both sides will have exactly the same pressure moving out, but we didn't want this to go out, so we put this, we held this back and pulled this side here out some. As it moved out, we kept these together, and this was nearly all the movement was in these teeth down on the bottom here. But this whole arch, if you could measure it exactly, this part and part of the lower moved out, while this moved a lot over here. Now here are the rubber bands. Looking at it, you can't tell. These are from the inside and coming down the inside to the outside. This had to have some class 2 correction, so we use those for class 2 to pull that. And we move these teeth out almost a ½ inch to keep them in line with this, to put the upper teeth over the lower teeth. I started that Big Daddy in 11/30 of '89, That's when we started using that. And this is 113089. We're bringing the upper teeth are going to be, they're already in line here. So we've got the upper teeth like we want them, but those elastics are going to move this over some. The whole thing will move over slightly. In other words, you pit 2/3, 3/4 of the teeth are going to be pushing against 1/4 of the other. And we move the 1/4 will move a lot more. All right, here's the lower arch. Here's the large wire that we used. These are the teeth that we brought out over here. These moved a little bit. The upper teeth moved a little bit. They stayed in the correct position with the upper teeth over the lower teeth. And these went out to where this part came between the cusp of the upper teeth. And that's how you make one side move, and then you play one side against the other 3/4 of the teeth. And then these teeth move a lot right here. And we moved that out, brought these teeth in line with that. And that, the guy was a periodontist. And he said, "You run them out of the bone." I said, "You have not run them out of the bone. I'm not going to skin them to show you. But you can look down. This is after we corrected them. And you can see where those teeth are while we are correcting them. We corrected the class 2 with these line. We got that a little bit on both sides. Now this is January 23rd of 90. The upper is out where it should be, and now the lower is out where it should be. And we brought those teeth out like that. Now, if you're going to mess around with these large arch wires down below, you've got to get into a rectangular wire on the bottom, and you put buccal root torque in the teeth. When you can move them out here, but then when you get them straight up and down, you've got to move gradually with the teeth straight up and down. You've got to widen them that way. And so that's where you put progressive root torque. You get behind the cuspid here, and you put the wire back there with that progressive root torque. I'm going to draw that in a minute, show you how it works. This is a bad picture right here. That's distorted. But here the lower teeth, in other words, we widened these teeth and then brought these teeth out to where the cusp are fitting underneath here and held it there like that. And to get this side out that much, I had to move this in. This whole upper arch moved over a little bit. This part moved a little bit, and we put force in there. Everything, this moved 3/4 of this portion here moved out that far, while the other looks like it stayed the same, but it didn't. You couldn't see it, you couldn't tell it, but we moved one side like that. That's a bad picture. Where after we finished the bone structure, you could palpate it over here, you could palpate it on this side too. Now we put it to class 1 on both sides. And these lower teeth are fitting underneath here. And here the young man is, after we got this done. And we'll see if I've got a finished picture here. This is 91, 91. There they are there now, after we corrected it. And there it is in 91. We brought it out, we expanded that, and got the cuspids lined up. And that's 89, where it was sliding past. And here's 4 of 90. And this is January of 91. The teeth are out there now. And they have bone structure on the teeth. And he's 20 years old. And this is 10 of 91. And here he is. That was where we started, and there's where we finished. There's the starting to the front, and there he is with that finished. And the lower teeth are out here, and I can guarantee you this bone here. The secret of it is moving them in the way you have to deal with it. So we brought these teeth out almost a half inch, coming in this direction from the, and we corrected the class 1 relation. And there it is, 10 of 91. Now we've brought that out a little wide here, but this fits okay. It's still the teeth are fitting in the groove of the lower. And these are the teeth that moved out all this much. This is pretty much class 1 relation there. And we put a little bonded 3 to 3 down here to hold it. Now, I'm going to show you what we did here. You've got lower teeth, and I have to get over here and make my deal again. Let's get the color. All right. Now these teeth on the bottom, and these up here, the upper fit down in that and came up over here. This should be going in that groove. Now on this side over here, the upper teeth were out here, the lower tooth was here. This tooth was actually sliding past that tooth right there. Now what we did, we put a force with a large wire on these teeth and spread them out in this direction. And you, whoever you are, you're going to have exactly the same force over here you have over on this side. I don't care how you do it. That's the way it's going to be. But we didn't want this to move out from under that. So what we did, we hooked elastic here and came up and hooked it up in here. So the elastic is pulling this out and pulling this in, and then we're pushing this out, and so you play this, and you come in and you take this one, and you do the same way over here. Now, you've got the elastic force is bringing these teeth over in this direction. And the force here is pushing these this way and these this way. But the elastic is pulling these teeth back to a point, and you keep this lined up correct where you regulate the amount of force you got on your big daddy arch wire, and you can carry these teeth over this way. Now, if this tooth is leaning this way, you can just carry it out. But once the tooth gets straight and you still need to go out with it, you've got to put a rectangular wire in the teeth to make it go correctly. Now, I'll try to illustrate here, down here. If we've got a tooth here, let me erase this, and I'm going to start again. All right, we've got the upper teeth fitting here. The lower tooth is fitting under here. Over on this side, the lower tooth would be somewhere like this, and the upper tooth would be coming down this way. Now, if this tooth is leaning, you can bring it up without the rectangular wire. But if it's straight and you need to move it over here straight and keep the root structure going out here with this like that, then you've got to put progressive root torque. And we had that rectangular wire you saw sticking out over here like that. I can illustrate root torque by just putting your hand up like this. Now, what am I going to have to do to move the roots out in this direction? All right, you'd have to do this to it. So I'd have to I'm going to have to twist this wire from the back of the cuspid all the way to the end. And you can put it on this light wire, you can put 90 degrees of bend in this wire. And you can bend it down and slip it into the slot, and it's going to tend to do this to the tooth. In other words, it's going to push the root up against, and you've got cortical bone out here on the tooth, and you've got cancellous bone, real soft stuff. So when you put that torque in there, it's trying to push the tooth over this way. It'll push the roots up against the cortical bone. And now you want to bring the cancellous bone in and go through it real quick. But if you put that torque and don't have a large wire out here supporting it, this is not what you get. In other words, if you put that torque in and leave it, the torque is stronger than the width of the light wire. And it would move the crown this way and the roots over here above it. But you keep this pressure over here, and then you pull this pressure up above, and the tooth goes bodily, pulls it up against the cortical bone. As you move it slowly, the cortical bone and the cancellous bone move out, and you can move that tooth. We moved it actually about a ½ inch in there. And this is the way you do it, and that's the way, if you're going to mess with this big daddy arch wire and use it never fails. It has all the force laterally you ever want. You can expand it, you can use a bigger wire, you can get all the force you even need to bring it out this way. But then you got to keep it going, so you have to put root torque when you're expanding the whole arch. Excuse me. There, you've got to put this root torque. So I hope you understand that thing. One of our fine teachers, and the guy I know is sharp as everything, tried to get this root torque with this round wire, and it doesn't work. You got to have a rectangular wire underneath your big wire if you're going to do any really expansion like this. Now the tooth's leaning, you can put it up here, but then you have to put this root torque to move the tooth in that direction. Thank you for watching. This is something not too many people will understand, and that's why I've gone over it so many times. So I'm going to close out and say goodbye, but this is something we need to do, and that's what will be done in this orthodontics of the future. You can turn anything you want to the teeth as long as people live, and I'll stand behind that. Now, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope you'll see this.